Welcome back to the Kung Fu Book Review. Today we're going to be coming back to an author that we've already had a look at one of his books, which actually it was the very first episode, which was the book we looked at before was called simply Wing Chun. And today we're going to be looking at the Wing Chun Wooden Dummy by this guy, Sifu Shuan Rawcliffe. So I gave high praise to his previous book, and to sum up, it's sort of similar for this one, but maybe not as extreme. So this book is a little bit more specialized. There are a few differences. So it's not got the same universal applicability to anyone that's studying Wing Chun, because you might not have access to a dummy, for example. So if you can only get to one with at a friend's house or at a school, sometimes your ability to train with it can be quite limited. So is it worth investing in a book that will help you and sort of guide you along with it? Maybe not so much. So aside from that sort of practical point, there are a number of other sort of small differences which I will bring about, but generally it's a very, 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 very good book. So similar to my points that I made previously, the overall level of production values in this book are excellent. So it's got a good contents page, well written forwards. It's not full of typos. It's got an excellent use of the anytime that Chinese characters are presented in sayings or phrases, it's done very well. It's got excellent sort of glossary and index sections and other bits and bobs that, if you've seen my other reviews, you know that I'm a huge fan of books that have all these kind of things and appendices and stuff. So it's got lots of goodies into that we'll get into later. But the overall content and quality is very high. My biggest sadness with this book is his decision to, which is admittedly a decision that he actually explains in the book, to abandon the line diagrams, which was so excellent in the previous Simply Wing Chun book, and to use colour still photographs instead. And he explains why. So because of the complexity of the dummy and that there's lots of extra arms and stuff, he thought that those line diagrams would get too confusing. I thought, yeah, maybe, but I think that, especially when you pull out the individual applications, which have now got colour photographs, I think that could easily be done still with line diagrams. So I do take the point about the dummy itself, that when you add in all the hand movements and the foot positioning and stuff, you want to be able to see your position relative to the dummy. So since we enter into that world of the sort of still photograph world, I think that he does it better than most. So all of the information lines, so when you're talking about an individual set of movements, all of the text that relates to it is on the same 2 pages as the photo. So you're not doing the look at a photo, scroll, look through. You're not playing that game. And all of them are clearly labelled as well with what the figure number is and what it entails. And all of the colour photographs are high resolution and clear. So for something that is going to do this, I think it does it as well as it can be done. But again, it's just not the optimal way to learn complex martial arts forms with foot movement, I think, from still photographs. So I think that inherently sort of undermines the task of this book, because the dummy set, I don't know if you do know, is it's probably got the most complicated footwork in the Wing Chun sort of empty hand sets. So it does have a lot, and it has continual repositioning and changing of angles, and of course it's dynamic and flexible based on your position relative to the dummy. So there's no sort of one size fits all way of doing it either. Let's have a look at what it's got in it, the contents, and go through and review everything. But yeah, just to say, it's not quite as good as his first sort of main book. But it is still an excellent book. So, and I'd say one of the best books on the wooden dummy. So I've reviewed one already that I thought was pretty good. Again, with a lot of the same praise that I gave for that previous book, which I think was just called The Wing Chun Wooden Dummy as well. is that it was based in the principles and the theory, and Sean is a huge proponent of that way of teaching anyway. So a lot of that same praise applies directly to this book as well. So what's he got? So yeah, we've got a contents page. Yeah, and lots of bits and bobs. We've got some forwards and acknowledgements. Doesn't spend too long on there, just a few pages. A little bit of a preface with an introduction. Again, short summary of what Wing Chun is. That's covered in other places. Doesn't spend too long there. But then he does spend a little bit more time, 10 pages or so, talking about the history of the wooden dummy. And I remember this section being quite strong. So yeah, you get a little bit more of his own training history as well. And he talks a little bit about the anatomy of a dummy and its design as well, which I thought was really good. Again, leading from the theory. And then the strongest bit at the start is when he talks about, so when he's into his section, the Wing Chun wooden dummy, that's right. So it's got some theory and history about how dummies developed. But then also he spends time on the design, and then also, this is one of the best section, is the fundamental principles, which starts on page 25, where he talks about position, distance, angle, direction, farging, footwork and stance, speed and fluidity, maintaining contact, muscle or resistance training. So it's just great. That whole section up to the end of that, so which before he talks about the form and concludes on it, it's about 10 or 12 pages. Is just really, really solid. Like I really recommend that for anyone who's studying the Wing Chun wooden dummy, to go through each of those key points, and so that you can kind of read them and have them in your mind as you're practicing. And maybe each time that you train, you can come back and focus on one particular point. So today I'm really going to work on my, let's just go through, on my distance, right, to make sure that I'm getting the right level of contact. And then another time I'm going to really work on my speed and fluidity, and I'm going to do it light and fast and really try and make sure that I can move quickly and freely between each of the different postures. Another time I'm going to do what we would call, when we train with it, qigong, so focusing on the sticky quality, so maintaining contact. So you're not too bothered about going fast or applying lots of power. You're just really trying to make sure that you're constantly in contact with the dummy and that you maintain that feeling of connection with it. So yeah, brilliant, like really good opening section. That is really, really where a lot of the strength of the book is. So and that goes all the way up to he talks about the wooden dummy form. He always does a good job of repeating the classical Wing Chun phrases or maxims, which are kind of like little 4, 6, 8 character phrases. If you know anything about Chinese, then the Chinese language, you'll see that these are all over Chinese martial arts of all forms and all over the Chinese language in general. So you have these little short phrases because of the way that the Chinese language is constructed, just a short collection of characters that reveals a lot of information for a relatively few characters. And they tend to be a little bit sort of mysterious, and they are, you can sort of contemplate them whilst you're training. So for example, some of them are quite practical. So you've got like steps vary and always maintain close contact with the wooden man. But then you've got things like up, down, back and forth. The movements are continuous. Which is like, yes, continuous, nice. So you do get a little bit of those kind of beard stroking Chinese philosophy moments that run alongside your training, which I think is important, right? Why would we do Chinese martial arts if we don't have a few of those moments? And hopefully they lead to insight and improvement, right? So then, he's got a section where he sort of describes all of what the wooden dummy form is, before he sort of just takes it on. And from pages 30, the vast majority of this book, so page 35 to 153 is all the form. But he doesn't just blitz through it and do, this posture, this posture, this posture. He's got that same type of approach where every time a new movement is introduced, he'll break it down and give you the key points and what each of these movements are. I'm just trying to find one of these sections in the book because it's one of the things that he does incredibly well. So Yeah. So, and it kind of shows, maybe, I think he's got like an engineering, or maybe it's a computer science, I can't remember, background, but he's got this really nice system of, he introduces a new move. So this one, like Po Pai Cheng, the butterfly palms. And it's a double sort of pushing vertical palm strike. And he not only tells you what the name of the movement is, and a little bit about how it should feel and how you should do it. He's got a little checklist. So he's got this nice structure every time a new movement's introduced. Then he'll show you the movement on the dummy, and then he'll show you an application with a partner. So really nice way of introducing new movements throughout the form. This does lead to a very long block. So, you know, the sections are clearly defined. He does break them down, but it does lead to this sort of continuous block of information, especially when there's so many repeated movements in the dummy. And, you know, because he's doing every single movement in turn, you get a lot of repetition, because there is a lot of repetition in the dummy set. So that's just a feature of most of the books and things that talk about this. Good, so that's the vast majority of the book. And then he finishes off with one of my favourite bits, that he covers a bunch of the Wing Chun maxims, has a nice glossary, has a list of references and an index. So it's all polished off nicely with good formatting. I really also recommend the section. He has a stages of learning, the wooden dummy as well, that you go through, and lineage charts. His section on the different maxims that you get throughout your different training maxims are brilliant. So he's got all of those. And then, as I said before, glossary and references. Good. So overall thoughts are very, very strong book. Excellent, very good guide or companion to a wooden dummy. I recommend getting this book if you can get regular access to a wooden dummy, if it's a key part of your Wing Chun training. So either if you have one yourself, or you can get access and train on one regularly. I don't just mean, you know, your teacher has one in the back of the class and you do it once every 3 months. That's not, I wouldn't consider it worth the time. Even if you're learning the empty hand version of the form, it's not the same. And most of the key teaching information needs to be practiced regularly on a live dummy. So if you do, then I would highly recommend this book, and I'd say it's one of the best books on the Wing Chun Wooden Man that there is. As I said before, I'm sad that the line diagrams have vanished, but I understand the reasons why. Good. Overall, excellent book. Very highly recommend to Wing Chun people. Not the masterpiece that the first one was, but definitely still an excellent book. Good. Please let me know if you'd like me to review any more of his books. He does have more. So he's got one on weapons as well, which I do also own. Or you want more Wing Chun books, or you want something different. So do let me know. As always, please like, share and subscribe. We value your comments and feedback. So far, the comments have been excellent. I really appreciate that, guys. We've got a couple of people that sort of posting up quite regularly, and then a few people that have just appeared here and there when they've had a particular connection to some of the books. I was really heartfeltly touched actually by some of the comments on T.T. Liang's, the book about T.T. Liang's life, because one of the guys that commented had actually been able to train with Stuart, and must be great. So brilliant, excellent. I'm really glad to see people taking an interest in the reviews. Please do continue to do so, and best of luck with your training, everyone.